Having a self-defense mindset is so important. Having a plan and being ready. You never know when a threat will happen, and it can happen when you least expect it. Innocently, while you and your family are going shopping, picking up some new flooring for your home. That's just what happened recently to a U.S. Law Shield member. He joined our community just months earlier. Then came that day, that critically important moment.
When the incident occurred, my wife, my youngest son, my oldest son were all in the vehicle with me that day. Back in December, my wife's grandmother had passed away. She had been living there at this house for years. You know, she was raised there, and they had never had anyone to help them take care of the house. So I had been promising my wife that I was gonna fix this house up. March the 10th was the day that we had planned to go and pick up floor material. I proceeded to get out the vehicle. I shut my ignition off. I took my keys and I was gonna hook them to my pants. In the process, I heard somebody yell out to me and demand my keys. Well, on this day that it happened, I was carrying, I just felt someone right, and I started going for my weapon. As I'm looking up, I'm staring down the barrel of a Glock, 45 caliber, and it was pointed at me. Not just pointed at me, shooting at me. It all happened so fast. My wife is yelling, "What's going on? What's going on?" I couldn't say nothing. When I went to draw my gun, I slightly shifted my body to the right so I can grab my pistol. And when I shift my body, that's when I think that bullet went right past my right shoulder and went into the dash cluster. By the time he can get a second one out, I had already drew my weapon and shot my first round. I noticed it hit him in the leg, and he proceeds to hobble around the backside of my van. I'm thinking he's just gonna run away and flee, but he's not. I hear gunshots, but to hear gunshots and knowing that those gunshots are coming directly at you, that's a very, very scary moment. I only shot 4 rounds. Out of those 4 rounds, 2 hit him. At this moment, there are so many things that are going through my head, and my kids and my wife are in this van. There is a cage in the van that separates the front of it from the back. We found one of the bullets. It went in and penetrated, and it stopped at that cage. And then there was another bullet hole up right above my gas tank that could have just blew the whole van up. My wife's exact words were, she was bracing herself to take a bullet. I was placed in a very, very difficult situation. So not only did I have to fight for my life, I had to worry about other people's lives that I could have taken injured because of the direction in which I had to shoot. In broad daylight, in traffic time, 5:30 p.m. And he just kept shooting and shooting. That was when I finally came to the front and took my second from last shot. And that's when I looked like that shot hit him and he just got away. So this is the dentist's office that let us inside to call the cops and call U.S. Law Shield. Once again, I highly appreciate those guys for doing that, because they could have just turned us down and not let us in at all. But this is the situation in which I had to go, and thank God we had somewhere we can get to safe cover.
Deverick was involved in a really serious incident in which not only was he being shot at, but he had to return fire. And then on top of all of that, his family was there. He was understandably very distraught. And of course, police were arriving and he was needing immediate help.
I was very, very worked up on the phone. Miss Emily Taylor told me, it's fine to tell them exactly what just happened, how it just happened, because I didn't do anything wrong.
In Deverick's case, he did everything right. He didn't instigate some sort of fight. He didn't overreact. He just defended himself exactly how Texas law contemplates that he could. My job really was to get the story out. And so having a lawyer who's calm, who knows what questions to ask, who knows what's going to be important for the police to hear, ask you those questions so your brain can start to process those things that it might not have otherwise processed is incredibly important.
She told me to let them know that I've just been a victim of a crime, give them my name and give them my location. And if I want, I can stay on the phone and just use it for recording, or if not, I can hang up. I called the cops and got back on the phone with U.S. Law Shield, even when they came. So while the police were there that had me detained on the wall, Miss Emily was on the phone still. I didn't want to incriminate myself or put myself in jail just by saying the wrong things.
Over the course of his interaction with police, we were interacting frequently about what was happening, how his statement was going, what the police response was.
And that was one thing they were kind of like freaked out about. Why are you on the phone with your lawyer? What did you do? You know, it felt like an interrogation room for a moment, because they were, you sure it wasn't gang violence? You sure it wasn't a road rage? You didn't flick them off on the freeway or anything like that? And it was very frustrating. So I just stopped them like, hey, I'm not gonna talk to you guys anymore. If you're gonna keep treating me like this, I'm gonna just let you talk to lawyers. They did their investigation. They picked up shells off the ground, and we were there for maybe roughly an hour. They didn't find them. They didn't really find anything. They just did more questioning and antagonizing me. I proceeded to go back to my van, check it out, saw that it was still running, and they gave me my firearm back. They gave me an incident report number and to follow up on, and told me I can go. I get a phone call from a detective, and he tells me, well, Mr. Woodfork, I need you to come in to do a photo lineup. I need you to bring your van so we can take pictures of it. And I also need you to bring your firearm you used that day. I was fine with everything up until the point he said, bring my firearm.
When a victim is just that, a pure victim, and you're not being investigated for any sort of criminal offense, there is no legal mechanism in Texas for the police to confiscate your weapon. And yet, that's the situation that Deverick found himself in. And of course, he's just had this horrible incident. He is more aware than ever that he needs to protect himself and protect his family. And here the police are wanting to take that weapon away when he is feeling more vigilant than ever.
You gave me my firearm back at the scene. Why are you asking me to bring it back now? He said, well, whenever you discharge your firearm out in public, it has to go in here for evidence. I said, well, I'm gonna call you back. Spoke with Miss Emily Taylor again. She said, no, Deverick, you don't have to do that.
Unfortunately, the police did not want to cooperate with that. It took several phone calls. It took a week or so of escalation from officer to supervisor to sergeant up the chain until finally someone would agree that they had no legal right to take his weapon.
She called me back and let me know, now you can go up there if you want to do a photo lineup, let them take pictures of your van. You don't really have to answer any more questions if you don't want to. It was a situation to where I knew I didn't do anything wrong, and after it was all said and done, the detective over the case reassured me himself, well, hey man, from the sounds of everything, hey, you guys didn't do anything wrong. We watched that video footage of the guy sitting there at that location for 2 hours, just waiting for the right opportunity to find him a victim, and he picked on the wrong guy.
Without that footage and before hearing Deverick's full statement, it is certainly possible that the police department could have thought that Deverick was lying, thought that he was involved in some sort of criminal activity that had turned violent, but it was incredibly helpful to the police coming to the conclusion, which was the right conclusion, that he was pure and simple a victim.
After that happened, I called Miss Emily, and I wanted to highly, highly thank her and tell her how much I appreciated her and U.S. Law Shield for being on my side.
Deverick and I have kept in fairly close communication since this incident. He's so committed, not just to protecting his family, but to educating other people about how to defend themselves. A person like Deverick doesn't come along very often.
If somebody's already got the drop on you or the up on you, you have to try to find a way to get out of it alive. It could have been anybody that could have just not had a firearm or ready to fight back and get taken advantage of. I went out and became an instructor immediately. I started speaking at classes immediately after it happened. My wife immediately went to an LTC class and got her LTC. I knew for sure it was my time to get out and advocate for the Second Amendment community. I feel like if I have more trained law-abiding citizens on the streets with firearms, I have less victims. And now my remodeling company, I hate to say, I'm putting it on the back end because I can help people. What's the difference between your life and death? Split second. You know, it happens that fast.